Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning. And good evening to our friends in Canada. Today, we have a second Tip Talk series organized by Medical Device and Technology Center, Meditech, initiated by Meditech Publication Unit. It is mainly designed to encourage, motivate, and strengthen the academic as well as researcher to be the world's research champions. We bring the expert to showcase their idea, their experience in facing the reality and the challenge of the new worlds of academia. The tips, talents, inspiring, productive, represent us who will contribute and bring this university to the next level. This is the way forward to be achieved through this talk. My name is Adrian Sasaron, the Director of Medical Device and Technology Center, Institute Human-Centered Engineering, University Technology, Malaysia. Today, it's almost pleasure to welcome Associate Professor Dr. Hendra Hermawan from University of Laval, Canada. This is the brief of our distinguished speaker. Dr. Hendra Hermawan is Associate Professor at Departments of Mining, Metallurgical, and Material Engineering, University Level, Canada. He obtains Bachelor and Master from Institute Technology Bandung in 2002 and PhD from University Laval in 2009, all in material engineering. He is professional engineering registered the Professional Engineer Ontario, Canada. Prior to joining his current affiliation in 2014, he was senior lecturer at University Technology Malaysia and industrial postdoc fellow at CRCHU de Quebec and IHT Barcelona. His research focused on the metallurgy and degradation aspect of metal biomedical application, most funded by public-funded agency. He served in the scientific community as member editorial board at several journals and as reviewer for paper related to material science and engineering. He was a recipient the 2018 Outstanding Reviewer Award from Elsevier and the Acta Materialia Inc. He also served as a reviewer for grant application from various funding grant agency, including Irish Research Council, Polish National Science Center, Swiss National Science Foundation, Wellcome Trust, or DBT India, and US Israel Binational Science Foundation. This is the biography of our distinguished speaker. Here, now, Associate Professor Dr. Hendra Hermawan from University of Laval, Canada, he taught entitled Implementing Think Globally, Act Locally in Academia, Malaysia, Canada Experience. Associate Professor Dr. Hendra Hermawan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, my best friend Ardi. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to our fellow in Malaysia. So let's go ahead. My talk topic today or tonight here in Canada is implementing the Think Globally, Act Locally in Academia, Malaysia Canada experience. So what does it mean by that? So it's simply be a local academia, but benchmark yourself with a global standard, any global standard of your choice. In my case, I use a standard in North America. So when we see when we benchmark ourselves to North American standard, we will see the typical path of an academia here. As you can see in this graph, the life of an academia in North America started by finishing standard education road from bachelor to master to PhD, which may take up to 10 years. And then we continue to postdoc. It's like a transition to become independent researcher. So during your BS, MS, and PhD, uh, you normally work under supervision of a senior professor or senior academician. And then once you completed your PhD, normally, if you choose to become an academia, normally we will go to postdoc. We're gonna find postdoc based on our research background and interest. And then, normally it will take 2 to 3 years in postdoc, and then during postdoc we're gonna get new connection. We know more people. We publish more paper. We work on different projects. While also we actively look for any vacancy for becoming an academics. So one of the most ideal situation in North America is finding or securing a tenure track position. So this is the first milestone after finishing postdoc. So it's a jump from postdoc to assistant professor usually. So once we secure a tenure track position, normally we're gonna be given a contract as assistant professor, typically 5 years. And then at the end of the term, we're gonna pass to an evaluation that determine whether we continue as academia and getting promotion to associate professor, or we stop the contract, our contract with the university who engage us. So then we will achieve the second milestone, which is succeeding the tenure promotion. And then we're gonna get our new position as associate professor, and then continue to become full professor if you wish to do so. So as you can see from this simple graph, there is an increase in income. So something measurable in terms of salary. So again, the main theme for tonight is be a local academia, but benchmark yourself with a global standard. It's really comes from ourselves, okay? Because if you want to have an easier life, just use the local standard, and you will survive. You will go with the crowd. You will become a normal academia as everybody else. But if you want to be different, if you want to be if you like to challenge yourself, as I said, benchmark yourself with a global standard, a standard better than our local standard. Here, like myself, also, if I see the standard in my university, it's not the best. So I use a different standard to benchmark myself. For example, I use McGill University in Montreal as a standard to become associate professor. So when I submit my promotion, my dossier for tenure promotion, I benchmark myself to associate professor at McGill University. I don't use the benchmark in my own university because I think At the time, I thought the benchmark in my university is lower than McGill University, for example. So we work, we motivate ourselves to to become better than the average. Uh, there are many indicators to that. For example, if to become I assume here everybody already in the academic, everybody already has their academic position, like lecturer, senior lecturer. So you are already in the line or in the path of an academia. So I consider the majority of audience is in the level of assistant professor, or in Malaysia could be lecturer or senior lecturer, and you are aiming at becoming associate professor. Uh, for sure, UTM has its own standard if you want to go to the next level. Uh, but as we highlight in the beginning, we want to use different benchmark. We want to use a higher benchmark for that. What does it mean? It means like this. It means it's something it's I'm hesitating to say that, uh, but it is like that. Okay, so consider you already benchmark yourself with a global standard. Now put it on a test. How to test it? How to test it? Find tenure track position vacancy at the country we use as the benchmark. For example, here I use North American standard. So I find here a tenure track position at University of Ottawa. So currently, the Department of Civil Engineering in the Faculty of Engineering, University of Ottawa, is seeking a new professor, okay, for tenure track position. They look for new recruits at the level of assistant professor, associate professor, or full professor if the candidate satisfy their criteria. So in this case, this department is seeking for new professor in the field of water related hazard and risk analysis. So it's in civil engineering. If we look for more information, let's click here. So here I go through, this job is no longer available. But fortunately, I already saved some information from here. So for that position, they put selection criteria as the following. Education, they look for PhD holder or equivalent in hydrotechnical engineering, civil engineering, or related discipline. They look someone with experience, and they put this criteria: excellent research track record with output in high quality academic journals and a strong teaching track record. And then they have other requirement or criteria, which is the candidate should be eligible for registration as professional engineer in Canada. Okay, so this requirement needs to be satisfied at the time of tenure and thereafter. It means the candidate should have the qualification to become a professional engineer in Canada. But most of those who graduate from engineering program, meaning the first degree is in engineering, they should be eligible to go for the registration. There will be exam. It could be technical exam. And then after we pass technical exam, we're gonna sit for law and professional ethics exam. Once we complete it, we may get the professional engineer license. And then other requirements, the candidate should have commitment to contributing to a culture that supports diversity and inclusion. This is very special in Canada. So in Canada, currently, we really encourage people from minority, from different background, to fill any position in academy. But this is like a general selection criteria. Based on my experience of being a selection committee, there is the story behind the scene. So how actually the selection committee rank the candidates. For example, in one case in our department, we announced a new position, and then we receive applications. There could be 30 to 50 applications, and the committee need to rank them. So how we rank these applicants? This is the grill we use. So we're gonna quantify research capacity of every applicant, and this count for 51%. And what is in this research capacity? The candidate must show their potential to attract research grant and to become an independent researcher. And this all refer to NSERC merit indicators. NSERC is Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council. So one of the three federal funding agency that every professor in science and engineering will have to deal with. It's like asking money to them. So in this NSERC merit indicators, there are three criteria: excellence of the researcher, merit of the proposal, training of high qualified personnel. If we look for more detail, this is the indicator I mentioned to you. So when we apply for research funding to this agency, our application will be rated as following. It could be exceptional, outstanding, very strong, moderate, or insufficient. There are three main criteria. Excellence of the researchers. Let's take a look the criteria for strong. What does it mean by a strong applicant? So in the for the excellence of research criteria to be evaluated as strong, the candidate must show research excellence, accomplishment, and service as significant. Contribution presented in the application are good quality. Impact and importance of the work is evident. So significant, good, and evident of the researcher. So this is based on the CV of the applicants. And then there is a merit of the proposal. For strong, the proposed research program is clearly presented, is original and innovative, and is likely to have impact and or address socioeconomic or environmental needs. Long-term goal and short-term objectives are clearly described. The methodology is described and appropriate. So in order our proposal to be judged as strong, this is the criteria. And then the application clearly demonstrate how the research activity to be supported are distinct from those funded or applied by other sources. And then the third criteria is training of highly qualified personnel. Highly qualified personnel are uh, bachelor degree students, master degree students, and PhD students, PhD level students, and also postdoc, technician, and other junior researchers under our supervision. So we have to show that we were involved or we have experience in supervising most of them. Okay, but I think most of academics will have this experience, will have the training experience. And if we see the criteria, we need to also clearly define what is our philosophy and plan for training the student. Okay, what is our philosophy for training the students? There are so many philosophy. Could be like forming a new researcher or forming students to train the students to be ready for working in industry, etc. It's depend on the philosophy of our lab. So why I mentioned this? So this is like the real example of one global standard. Okay, it could be different from selection criteria in FRGS, for example, or any funding program in Malaysia. So here in Canada, we have this grill. It's still general, but if we become one of the evaluator, we will be given a more quantitative criteria to to rank proposals. So let's go back to my presentation. So in the selection of new professor, the behind the scene, after research capacity, okay, so research capacity took the most point, 51%. And then there is teaching capacity, typically takes 30%. So we have to, the candidate must clearly define their teaching philosophy, pedagogical approach in teaching, and also some innovation. We the selection committee will see the suitability of the candidates, educational background, especially the bachelor degree. So since this department, for example, is civil engineering, they will prefer to have candidates with a bachelor degree in civil engineering or any related engineering. They will not, for example, they will consider candidates with background in physics or other science as a strong candidate. And then the committee will look for any training and formation or if the candidate has been trained to teach. For example, the candidates follow outcome-based education training or other things like MOOC, etc. And then if the candidates receive any grants and awards in teaching. So discount the teaching capacity for 30%. And then the rest, 90%, typically is for participation and networking capacity. So the selection committee will see this capacity on the candidate. They will look at evidence of involvement in organizing scientific activities, for example, being member of organizing conference, organizing committee in the conference, in some training, seminar, etc. The candidates will need to show leadership, personality, and participation in university life, and then capacity of becoming a professional engineer in Canada. So this in the selection criteria there is others, professional engineer. So it is also in the this 19% point. So again, this is a real example of a standard. Okay, so this is a basic standard for academia in Canada. So these three criteria, three criteria in the general standard. So any professor in Canada, they have to show their research capacity, teaching capacity, and participation and networking capacity. They have to pass all of this. Okay. And then now we arrive in the milestone number 2, which is tenure promotion evaluation. So to become associate professor, it is like this. So after postdoc, and then we fight to get tenure track position, and then we are engaged. We successfully secure tenure track position and become assistant professor. So in Canada, there are 3 levels of professorship: assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor. So once you are hired as young academician, usually after postdoc, you become assistant professor, and then you will be given 5 to 7 years contract. At the end of your contract, you will ask for promotion to become tenure, okay, to become permanent. So this is example of tenure promotion evaluation. Actually, this is it's like general policy for tenure promotion in Canada. So the 3 big points in the evaluation is teaching, research, and service. So it's normal. So these 3 categories. So in teaching, we need to prepare teaching dossier, a comprehensive collection of evidence of teaching contribution and effectiveness that include a teaching philosophy statement, information on pedagogical strategies used inside and outside the classroom, sample student work, and evidence of professional development and mentorship. So basically, we need to show evidence of improvement in teaching capabilities, in our teaching capacity, and the evaluation and the evidence, like the source of evidence that we have an improvement in teaching capacities is data from student evaluation. It's like at end of semester evaluation by students. Also peer review of in-class teaching and course content, publication and research about teaching and learning, teaching awards, contribution to program and curriculum development, sample of teaching materials. Okay, so in teaching. And then in research, as in the beginning, we need to show that we have the capacity to become an independent researcher. So what is the point that evaluated in research? receipt of external research grants, supervision of graduate students, significant peer review research publication in a faculty member's field. This might include books, monographs, journal articles, and book chapters, participation at conferences and in meeting of professional organization, review and editing responsibilities, for example, becoming a reviewer, editor, etc. Non-peer reviewed publication, for example, policy papers, and letter of appraisal from colleagues. Okay, this is actually the easiest um, evaluation criteria to judge. But here in Canada, we don't use what many countries use, like we look at the H index, Scopus H index, look at what impact factor of journals and academics publish. It's not really like that. So we need here the evaluation committee will look at a comprehensive output of research. And then the third criteria is in service. So the evaluation committee will look at the evidence of participation in departmental, divisional, institutional committees, participation in institutional governance processes, academic administrative appointments, community service, faculty association responsibilities, and inclusion. So again, this is another real example of a global standard used in Canada. Okay, so here you may use this as a benchmark when you want to become an associate professor. Okay, so you can, for example, if I use a benchmark, McGill University as a benchmark, I will look at uh, the faculties or the professor in McGill University in the same department. For example, in materials engineering department of McGill University, I will look at the, the the profile of associate professor over there. So, how is the associate professor in McGill in terms of publication? Do they have, are they active in publication? Do they receive a lot of funding? How much? If I can look at the more quantitative data. Actually, here in Canada, we can get that information. So it's public. We can look at the funding agency's website to check a person's research grant, and then we can also check how active the person in publication. There are many sources like Scopus database or Web of Science database, and then we can check also to their library to know how many graduate students they have supervised, etc. So, and the criteria in service is not easy to measure. Teaching also is not easy to measure unless we can find evidence of teaching award, for example. But the research criteria is easy to find for more detail. Okay. So now, check your global market value. Being an academia in Malaysia, but you already set a global standard for yourself. Now check if you have global market value. How to do that? Apply for any faculty position in the country you use as a standard. Could be United Kingdom, could be United States of America, could be Canada. If you use Canada as your benchmark, You can check, you can find announcement for faculty position, for example, using this universityaffairs.ca, academic job search all across Canada. You can use academicis.com for higher education job and university jobs. Then you can narrow down your search to include only Canada or United States. And also there is higher education job and many more. Okay. And before you can do that, prepare your application package. So fortunately, in North America, application package is simple. Okay, you don't need any official documents from any governmental agencies. What you need to prepare is cover letter, curriculum vitae, research statement, teaching statement, and referees. Name of referees, not reference letter. You don't need to ask reference letter. You just need to name 3 referees. Okay. Cover letter, a letter that effectively summarizes your suitability to the post being applied. A letter that relates the requirements of the post being applied with your qualification. Curriculum vitae, follow the Canadian CV style. Okay, if you apply to Canada, follow Canadian CV style. It's different from Malaysian CV style. If you apply to Australia, they have their own style. United Kingdom, they have their own style. So you submit curriculum vitae that is familiar to the eyes of selection committee. And then research statement, it's statement of research interest and research plan. Plan, not project. So a 5-year research program. Our program for research, if we are selected, if we win the competition, if we become a professor in that department, 5-year research program. So this we will need to refer to the funding agency requirement. So let's check the funding landscape in Canada. There are 3 main research funding agencies in federal level. There is NSERC for science and engineering, CIHR for health science, SSRC for social science and humaniora. So we need to have this knowledge to make a good statement of research interest. Okay, to make a more sound research statement, we need to understand the funding landscape in Canada. The same apply if we apply to Australia, we need to know what funding agency we will need to apply to get money. Like in Malaysia, we know there are MOSTI, there is also Minister of Higher Education, there is a FRGS, there is eScience Fund, etc. So we know to whom we should ask money when we write our 5-year research program in the research statement. And then the teaching statement of teaching philosophy and teaching plans, including courses you can offer. Okay, we need to check the website of the department we are applying, what course they offer to undergraduate students and who teach those courses, and actually which course we can also teach. Okay, we can offer or new course we can create for them. And we put also the course plan. Okay, the objective of our course, the content, the evaluation, the method to deliver the course, etc. Any innovation we include in the course plan will be interesting. Will be interesting for the selection committee. And then referees. So name and contact address of 3 referees, those who will genuinely prepare a strong support letter for you. So it's not, do not ask somebody to become a referee if you know that the that somebody will just only prepare a formal letter without the heart involved in the writing. So we need to to, to select a referee who will prepare a strong support letter. So this is a real example of applying a global benchmark. So try, prepare this application package, okay, a template, and then find uh, vacation, position, academic position announcement, and apply. Then you will see if your application is selected in the shortlisted candidate. Okay, so for example, from 50 applicants, the selection committee will rank, okay, rank 1 to 50, and then the first, second, and third rank will be invited for interview. Okay, so if our application reach that listed shortlisted candidates, it means you have already a global market value. You already reach a global standard. If you use Canada as a standard, so you are already have Canadian standard as academician. So then you will go for interview, and then if finally you are chosen, you will be given an offer letter. Okay, so at the end, it is us who has the control. They offer a position with like what rank and what will be the offered salary, the benefits they offer, etc. And then it's to us to decide at the end if we accept or refuse or we negotiate. So do not afraid of that. Do not from the beginning have a thought in your mind. How if I am selected, then I have to go to Canada? No. At the end, you can say no. But the important thing is this is a checkpoint to confirm that you already reached your global market value. Okay. So finally, as a candy to attract you, I show here to show you salary and benefits offered to Canadian professors in general. Okay, and the data I took from the latest statistic on average salary of a professor in Canada. So Canadian professor or academician, when I say professor, it means assistant professor, associate professor, full professor. Okay, they will be given annual salary. They will be given pension plan, okay, money inside, vacation and leaves, insurance. So annual salary, how much money you will get, it's depend on which university who hired you. If you are hired in University of British Columbia, okay, in Vancouver, the image behind. As assistant professor, you will receive $133,000 per year, paid every 2 weeks. If you are hired at University of Ottawa, you got as assistant professor, you got 128,000. If you are hired as assistant professor at University Laval, my university, you will receive 98,000. So it's different. University of British Columbia is in Vancouver. Okay, a single house with backyard, okay, single with uh, with a house on the soil, not a house in the air, okay, not stick to other houses, single house with some land. In Quebec City, where Université Laval is, okay, wait, like this. So this salary is calculated based on the cost of life. Okay, University of British Columbia is in Vancouver. Cost of life there is very high. University of Ottawa is in Ottawa, the capital of Canada. The cost of life over there also relatively high. University Laval is in Quebec City, a small city, small town. The cost of life is lower than in Ottawa or in Vancouver. Okay, what does it mean this? Okay, this salary. So in Quebec City, you can get a house, a single house with land for the price equivalent to 4 to 5 year of salary. Okay, so 4 to 5 annual salary with 4 to 5 year of your salary, just like this, you will get a house. In Vancouver, you will need 10 to 20 years to get the same house. Okay, so if you compare to that, this salary is relatively high because you will use like 25% of your salary to pay your house for the mortgage. While in British Columbia, you may have to spend more than 50% of your salary to pay your house. Pension plan. So both professor and the university make contributions to the plan's fund based upon their salary. So if there is like $500 taken from your salary every 2 weeks, university will top up $500 to that money, so it become $1,000, and that money will be invested in pension plan. So you get money from university for your pension, for your retirement. And then vacation and leave, there is annual leave. In case of University Laval, we have 25 work days as annual leave. We can take it any time we like. Could be in summer, could be in December, anywhere, anytime. As long as you can manage your research and teaching. And then maternity and paternity leaves up to 1 year with salary. Okay? So for mother and father together. Sabbatical leaves up to 1 year with salary too, and other. And then insurance, it's complementary to government health insurance. It may include medication, dental and eyes, life insurance, disability insurance, travel insurance. Not from this is for the professor and their immediate family members. Travel insurance. So in my case, like when I travel to Indonesia for my vacation, and my daughter got sick in Singapore, we just go to clinic there and then we pay. And then when we arrive in Canada, we ask for reimbursement because we are covered by travel insurance. So that's all. That's the thing what I would like to share with you. So we go back to the beginning. So this is the conclusion. Be a local academia, but benchmark yourself with a global standard. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Indra. Actually, is a comprehensive thought. Uh, so many things to strategize to develop our career actually, right? So we need to wait. We need to see the question from the uh, our viewers also. Okay, I think I think that there is a lot of problems in the beginning, starting from the career. Okay, a lot of barrier actually, a lot of barrier in not only on the research, only in the teaching, but at the end, the performance of the new staff, beginner, right? That is the difficult to survive actually. So you have some special tips, to survive, yeah, to survive as beginner in the career as academician, Datendra.
Yeah, to survive. What do you mean by survive?
Survive. I mean, in the there is a
You don't
KPI,
get
right?
fired, or
It's not that, there is a KPI, right?
okay,
I think currently the KPI is quite tough. Okay, and beside that there is a punishment, right? I think you have experience a career in the Malaysia. I think you know, and that is related with the salary also. Then now is there is another there is new rules, which is if you are not achieve, let's say 50% of the KPI, then you 3 times that is possible you fired. That
okay,
is new regulation. Then the strategy to survive as become a good academia, that is become better. Maybe you have the special trick ataupun the methodology, as become good beginner academician.
okay. So I will define survive as fulfilling KPI. So survive is fulfilling the KPI.
Yeah.
So KPI is the local standard. Okay, and that and if you think about being a global academia, it means you need to surpass that local standard. If the KPI asks you to publish how many paper a year?
Uh, Currently, if you are a senior lecturer, around three,
Three
2, 3
papers.
papers. Yeah.
Okay. Thankfully, here in Canada, there is no KPI. So even assistant professor, there is no KPI. Your KPI is the uh, uh, requirement to become assistant professor. For that, that's your KPI. So like the evaluation criteria to become assistant professor. You have to achieve your KPI at the end of your contract as assistant professor. So within 5 years, you need to fulfill all the requirement to become assistant professor, and it is not that difficult. For example, in my department, you need to publish 3 papers in peer-reviewed journals within 5 years. So it's not that difficult. So now we go back to UTM, 3 papers a year for senior lecturers. But we have to understand papers is a product of research, right? And to have a product, we need an input. The product is an output, so we need an input. What is the input? It could be the idea, okay, the idea for research. If you want to to make a good publication in a good journal, you must define an original idea that is publishable, that move forward the the latest barrier in science. So depending on your field of research, you need to know that the frontier, the furthest frontier in your research field. You need to understand that. So it means you need to read a lot. You need to read publication from the top journal in your field. So then you have the idea, you have the knowledge about the latest development. From that, from the reading, you will know uh, which spots need to address more, and that will become your research idea. And then that's the most important input in research, the idea. And then you formulate the idea to become research proposal, and you have to switch the the philosophy there. Research proposal, the philosophy of research proposal is to satisfy the selection, the evaluation committee, to ask their money, to give you money. So it's not to satisfy editor in journal, etc. You just need to satisfy the selection committee, the evaluation committee, the people who doesn't understand your field. So you in the proposal you need to impress them that your research is important, your research proposal worth of money, and it will bring Malaysia to the moon, for example. So just don't be humble in writing proposal. Okay, okay, you can benchmark the criteria in Canada, for example. I show you the table about how proposal is evaluated in Canada. So target for example, a very strong proposal. What is the component of very strong proposal? Like the objective is clear, okay? The methodology is justified, and the research outcome is predicted. Predicted means you know what are you looking for using your methodology. It's not just exploring, but I use the I use XPS, for example, to analyze the compound on the very top surface of material, for example. So, but you don't know what is this compound, but you know how to evaluate it. You know the method to know that. So clear, uh, and use strong sentences. Okay, not humble sentences. The evaluation committee are clever people. They already have PhD. They are senior academician or industries, but they don't know exactly your field of research. So make them impressed that your research field is very important to everybody's life in the proposal. So that's some of the characteristic of a winning proposal. Then you get the money. That's the capital to do research. And then you don't do the research by yourself, right? You are already senior lecturers. You don't come to the lab usually, and you don't have the capacity to learn as fast as a student. So you need to recruit students. Student doesn't have to be very bright to have GPA, maximum GPA, but somebody who can work with somebody who can work with us and share the same idea. Okay, so then finding the student is not easy, but forming any student who comes to us to become a partner in research is something doable. So the student will become our partner in research, and then we do the research together. Mostly the students who do the research. We just supervise and then we monitor the work, and then we get some result, and we align the results with the main objective of our research. Now after we get the money, then we go back to our real challenge in finding new knowledge in our field. Okay, so after we got the money, we don't care about the proposal anymore. Mostly, I mean, the level of scientific value in the proposal is not that high, but when we get the money, we do the research, the real research, then we will align that with the latest development in our field. So then with that in mind, it will be easier to write a good paper, a good report of research output. Okay, and then it will be publishable too. Okay, one student, one paper, and then we collaborate with other professor, and we got our second paper. We also collaborate with other professor again. We got the third paper. So that's the way. Okay, we cannot do it. We cannot get these three papers by ourselves alone. Except we already have a fully functional lab with a lot of students, and not only junior student. It's, we already have like a senior PhD student. If possible, we have postdoc there. We can get these three papers easily every year. Okay. But for the beginner, for sure, it's not that easy. I think also the those who define KPI also has some flexibility in that they don't apply that strictly to somebody who just joined.
Okay, thank you, Data Indra. Actually, I got a comment, from the viewers, from Ida Muhammad. Uh, they said, let's go to Canada, Datadi. No KPI.
That's true, Professor Ida.
Yeah, I
Professor
think
Idayu,
I
right?
believe that's why you moved to Canada, right? You moved from UTM. Okay, that is another story.
No, it was surprising for me that actually in Canada there is no KPIs whatsoever, because here the situation is not the same. Okay, here professor has very strong value, uh, what we call academic freedom. Academic freedom is defended by the Union of Professor. Okay, we have Union of Professor, which is a part, what we call it, um, who has the same level of negotiation with the rector, with the university management. So we don't have that KPI. We don't have the rule of engagement of professor is determined by the union of professor and the university management. Okay, what is our obligation? What is our right? Is defined in that agreement. So we have a mutual agreement between union of professor and university management, and with that we determine if any the KPI. So that's why there is no KPI. What I can consider KPI is the requirement for promotion. So my next KPI is if I want to become full professor.
Understood. I think is different story maybe in Malaysia. Currently, Malaysia want to develop the culture, the good culture in academic. That's why they have the KPI. Then after that, there is a culture is there. Then I think there is no KPI at all. I believe on that one. The same like any country. in the top university, right? Also, there is no KPI actually, but the staff actually produce very good achievements. Okay, the Tendra actually I have a lot I have a lot question in my phone actually. Okay, another one is how you able to balancing, balancing in terms of research and teaching and uh, and service, service to community, service to the company. Maybe any direction for that, the Tendra.
Okay, so if we go
Then
back to KPI again, so here the KPI is it is me who define the KPI. Okay, if I want to be access in the global
okay,
scientific
maybe.
community, so if I want to keep my global standard, okay, if I want to keep my benchmark with the global standard, then I have to do what a global academia does in terms of research, in terms of teaching, in terms of community service. So that's the KPI. So the KPI is not by university, but by ourselves. If I don't publish, then I will be gone from the global community. So the motivation come from ourselves. So that's why be a local academia, but benchmark yourself with the global standard. That's the the keywords. Um, so teaching, research, and service. So yeah, as I want to be as me myself, I want to stay in the global stage of academia. Then I have to be productive continuously, communicate with the community. How we communicate is by publishing our work and also by reviewing other works. So we have to keep being authors of paper. We also have to keep being reviewer and editors of journal papers. And to do that, of course, we don't do it by except for reviewing and editoring. We do it by ourselves, but for research, we are working with our student. So 5 days a week, 8 hours a day or less. So like 40 hours a week. It's our working hours. Within that, we we divide into three main activities. So teaching, research, and service. In teaching, uh, we teach one or two courses a semester. This is here we don't call it semester because there are 3 sessions in a year. So uh, so we usually we say some everything's in term of year. So in a year we teach 3 to 4 courses. So 3 hours a week in the classroom, multiply by three. So 9 hours of teaching load a week. Okay, it's a day. And then the community service we can be a committee in the department or in university. Maybe we can allocate like 8 hours a week. So one full day for service. So the rest is for research, supervising students, writing grants, etc. So it's always it's us who manage the the balance. and to keep ourselves happy. Okay, I'm not. Yeah, I have family too, so I have to balance that. And once we balance family and professional life, maybe we don't excel too much. Okay, compared to those who decide to be single, doesn't have kids, doesn't have anything else, focus on research. They will excel in research because they don't think any other things. Me, I have little daughter to play with, so I cannot concentrate on research every time.
Okay, Datendra, I think I believe in Canada now late evening, already. Okay, there is someone miss you. Uh, do you have any plan to came to Malaysia to visit them? Guess from who? That is from Dr. Sapika.
Actually, with RD, we already have a plan to 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 visit. Last time we have a program with me and Dr. RD for collaboration, and within that there is an allocation to come to UTM, but due to the pandemic, we have to postpone it or maybe even cancel it. But as I mentioned in the slide about benefits for professor in Canada, we have 1 year of sabbatical leaves in every 7 years. So I have that. Actually, I plan to to go for sabbatical leaves. Maybe it was for this year, but postponed to pandemic. And I can use my sabbatical leave 1 year. I can be in UTM, do teaching and research. So be a UTM staff again, but paid by University Laval.
Most
Okay.
welcome, Natendra. We wait for that. This is, I think, I need to stop. Last question. Last question from my uh, phone. How to know the CV formats from the respective institution or country? Yeah. And how about the age eligibility? Is there any for application to be qualified?
Okay. For Canadian CV, there you can just Google academic CV Canadian style. You can get it easily. Okay, academic CV Australian style, American style. You can easily find it in the internet. Or you can go to, but select those that information that comes from reliable source like university source, university career development, okay, etc. So it's easy to find that. And then uh, age eligibility in Canada, in in the CV in Canadian style there is no mention about age because um it's discriminatory to evaluate application based on age. Okay, it's not in the evaluation criteria, and it is against the the anti-discriminatory is discriminatory law in Canada. So age, religion, gender, origin uh, is something that are not used in the selection process for academia in Canada. For actually for everything in Canada. So no discrimination in for that point. And any uh, um, announcement for academic position in Canada is open to anyone in the world. Okay, so it's not restricted to Canadian citizen. For anyone in the world who has the required qualification, they can apply. So Julfad Julfadli Zakaria, you can apply from Malaysia,
Uh,
and
don't
it is
don't apply. That is dangerous. I will alone. It's Chinese officer.
you can apply from your home because as you see the requirement is you can prepare everything by yourself. Okay, you don't need anyone signature, anyone permission. I mean, any documents. You don't have to send your scan of passport page. No, just CV, cover letter, statement of research, statement of teaching, and names of referees. Once you are selected and you accept your offer letter, then the administrative people in the university may ask you for some documentation. That's after you are accepted and you accept the offer at the end. In the beginning, there's no photo, there is no things like that. Just those documents in PDF sent to an email address, the selection committee address. That's all.
Okay. Very special thanks to Associate Professor Dr. Hendra Hermawan to all the way from Canada. Okay, I know this is late evening in Canada. Thank you so much for spending precious time, and thanks to our few who watching distinguished talk. Thank you so much for watching. Do do stay tuned because we have another tip talk series for you. See you next time. Bye bye for now.